All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages. This is the third part of the intimacy intensive series we've been doing. And today we're talking about attractive and unattractive reasons to build strength as a man. So if you've been listening through, you know that a lot of times guys go about trying to get intimacy by kind of manipulating their wife. But women, what they're attracted to is strength. So hopefully now you understand you need to build strength. But what we're going to talk about today is there are actually attractive reasons, and your reasons matter a lot. Attractive reasons to build that strength and unattractive reasons to build that strength. And obviously, we want to choose the strength that's more attractive or the reason that's more attractive. My name is Mike Frazier, MD. I am a marriage coach and I help high achieving men have more intimate marriages. So, again, as a quick review, men, they usually try one of three techniques to get more intimacy from their wife. So approach one is that Mosquito Method, the happy wife, happy life. Okay, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do the 5 love languages. I'm going to buy things for you. I'm going to do all these things and then kind of have it be your turn to have sex with me. Basically earn sex by, doing nice things for her. And as we learned before, that's kind of like treating her like a prostitute in a way, right? You're kind of buying it, not necessarily with money, although kind of with money because you're paying for things, but more like emotionally, right? You owe it to me for all these favors I've done for you. Okay. Approach two is the pout method. So you approach your wife for sex. She says no. You kind of like walk away sad, and then maybe she kind of gives in. She's like, okay, fine, let's do it. But that's not going to get her excited to have sex again anytime soon. Then there's the more direct, like you owe me method. Everything I do for you, can't you just do this one thing for me? Again, she might give in, but when a woman feels obligated to have sex, it's just not a turn on. Okay. She might do it. She might go through the motions, but it's not real. It's not the intimacy you want. Okay. They're all needy. They're all weak. And what we learn is that women, they're attracted to strength, always have been, always will be. So you want to build up your strength. Now, the way I teach it, the way I believe it, is there's different areas of us as a person, and there's strengths we can build across these areas. So one is spiritual strength. So that's your integrity, your purpose, your being trustworthy, a man of your word. Um, if you're a religious person, your connection with God, right, and with Jesus. Mental strength, your ability to choose your thoughts, to know what you're thinking, to get in there and manage your mind in a much more effective way. Internal emotional strength, being able to name your emotions, deal with them appropriately. Um, interpersonal emotional strength. This is where we talk about communication, setting boundaries, getting to agreements that work for both of us. Okay. Being able to turn conflict into connection. Physical strength, just your body and also your finances. And then there's sexual strength, which is how you approach sex and owning your sexuality and really having that be integrated as a part of you and choosing how you want to use it and then living consistent with that. Really, a lot of these have to do with setting a clear vision for who you want to be as a man. And that's really what we're talking about today is you set it for yourself, right? And then you live true to that. Why? You live true to that just because that's who you want to be. And that is strong versus let's say you come into the strongman system, into the program, or we work together, and really your underlying desire or your underlying motive in all this is just to get your wife back or just get her to have more sex with you, right? That's manipulative and it's not going to work. So that's kind of the main point of today's today's lesson. But so again, you have kind of two main options for why to build these strengths. Okay. So option one, your main number one focus can be to attract your wife to you. Now I understand that's what we want, right? That's what we get out of it. That's what that's what we're hoping for, right? Is to have a better sex life, or in more extreme cases, right, to have her not divorce you or not separate or end a separation or forgive you after an affair, or for her to come back from her own affair, right? So all of that, it's hard, right? And we want those things. Of course, we want those things. Or if it's more, less severe case, you just want your wife to have sex with you more often or be more attracted to you, right? So you can build these strengths because you want that, right? And look, a lot of the guys I work with, that's where we start. Okay, but I want to kind of give you a head start on this and help you understand that really, if your main goal is to change your wife, right? And basically that's what we're talking about here. Like, you come in, your main goal is have my wife not divorce me. Your main goal is have her come back after a separation. Your main goal is have her have sex with me more often. Okay. It's really still that mosquito method, right? It's still controlling, it's still manipulative. Your goal is actually to change her in all of this. So it doesn't really have to do with you building strength. It has to do with, look, Mike, you tell me building strength, that's how I'm going to attract my wife. So I guess I have to do that. If I didn't have to build strength, though, I wouldn't. you know, if there was some other way to do this, I would do it that way, right? Um, but I guess you've helped other guys, so maybe you can help me too, right? So that approach to building strengths, like, fine, I'll build it because that seems to be the way to get what I want. Okay. It actually will not work. Even if you learn to communicate better, even if you do control your emotions better, even if you do manage your thoughts better, if the whole goal is change my wife, change my wife, change my wife, okay, it's still controlling, it's still manipulative, it's still mosquito mode, and it will not work. Okay. So, some reasons that do work, and we'll get into this more, but if it's to change your wife, guys, it just isn't going to work. And you're like, no, I don't want to change my wife, I just want her to have sex with me more. Okay, that is changing her. Your focus is changing her, right? Changing her thoughts, changing her behavior. Okay. Again, if your goal is to change her behavior, you're in trouble. Okay. If we could directly control other people, that'd be fine. If there was a way to do that, I would tell you. As far as I know, there's not really a way to do that. At least, like, you could look at like a dictator that like threatens people with death unless they do what they want. That might work, but again, it doesn't create intimacy. It doesn't create love. It doesn't create joy. Okay, and a lot of things we do are manipulative in that way, right? They're putting an emotional gun to our wife's head, right? And saying, why won't you have sex with me, right? And then we're wondering why she's not like excited to have sex with us when we're acting like this dictator. Okay. So, some reasons that work much better, right, is to build strengths because you want to, because that's who you believe God wants you to be a good example for your kids, or just to be the kind of husband you want to be. This is one that gets confusing for guys, right? I asked one of my clients this, and I asked clients this, who decides if you're a good husband? For a lot of guys, immediately they're going to say, my wife. My wife decides if I'm a good husband or not. Okay. You actually get to choose what kind of husband you want to be and be that husband. Okay. And believe it or not, that is going to be more attractive to her. Now, of course, you get feedback from your wife, right? You might think you're being attractive when really you're not, and your wife can explain that to you, right? And that's useful, but it's still not just to get something for her. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. You're not trying to control her by making these changes. You can get feedback. She can say, actually, that's not that attractive. You can say, why is that? Maybe tell me more about it. And you get her feedback. But if she's wrong, right? If she's like, well, I only want you to change for me. I don't want you to change for God. Okay. You can kind of say, well, actually, I don't want to do it like that. I want to do it because I want to do it. And your wife might be upset for a minute, but then she's going to be respect you and be more attracted to you. That's the whole point of this, guys. The more we just try to make our wives happy, the less it works, the less she respects us. The more that we really decide who we want to be and work towards that and build those strengths, we feel better about ourselves and we're more attractive to her also. So it's a paradox. If your only goal is change my wife, it will not work. If your goal is become who I want to be as a man, treat my wife well because that's what I want to do, okay, those strings are gone, right? We're talking about manipulation. This really is manipulation if your goal is to change her. So strings are attached. The things that you do, there's strings attached. But when it's just because it's who you want to be and you're not trying to control her, you're not trying to get something out of her, okay, those strings are gone, right? And she can feel when the strings are there and when they're not. And when they're not, she's going to be much more attracted to you, okay? Now, the other big thing that happens, right, is let's say your marriage is in a more severe spot. You've been unfaithful, or she's been unfaithful, or you're already separated, or you're in the divorce process, right? And you're like, come on, just come back. I'll change. I'll do everything for you, right? If your goal is just to get her back, and all of your behavior changes are based on getting her back, here's what she understands, whether she says this or not. And you need to understand him. Okay. If you're only changing to get her back, she knows that when she comes back, you will not maintain your changes. Why would you? Right? The only reason you're changing is to get her back. Now she's back. Okay. Now you're free, right? Now you can do whatever you want. That's what she knows when you're saying stuff like, and even in your mind, even if you're not saying this out loud, if you're saying, oh, I just got to get her back. I'm going to change. I'm going to do whatever to get her back. Okay. This is an internal shift, guys. It's so important. That's why we're dedicating a whole episode to this. Okay. And again, so if you're only making these changes, oh yeah, Mike said I gotta build strength, right? That's what's gonna make my wife attracted to me. So I have a good example of this one. So the I exercise regularly. I keep myself in good shape, and for a long time, so women are attracted to a guy who is in better physical shape, right? That's just the truth. It's we're all physical and sexual attraction. It goes with physical attractiveness, part of it. And so I would work out, and I like working out anyway, but after my workouts, I would come up to my wife and literally like flex and make her look at me and basically tell me, oh yeah, you're looking good. Right. So, so I was building strength. I was in good shape, but do you think that my flexing in front of her and basically saying, hey, I'm building this strength so you'll be attracted to me, do you think that made her attracted to me? Okay. It did not. Right. She at first was like, oh yeah, nice. And then eventually she like stopped even looking. She was just like, yeah, whatever, man. Because she knew those strings were there, right? Sure, I was building strength. I was getting physically stronger. That should have attracted her to me, but it didn't, because the reason I was doing it, at least in part, was just to get her to have sex with me more. Okay. Does that make sense? So look, it's the same mosquito method. I was being a mosquito when I was up there flexing to her. Okay. And it doesn't make her want to have sex with you. It makes her want to swat you away and brush you away. Right. All right. So, guys, here's another major issue. If you are going to build strength, you decide, okay, I'm going to build strength, but it's because I want my wife to have sex with me. It's because I want my wife to come back. If that's the only way that I can know that I have won, right? Is if my wife comes back, if we have sex more or whatever. Okay. If that's your win is actually out of your control. Okay. Your wife is going to choose whatever she's going to choose. Sure. Building strength and becoming a better man. It's the most likely thing that will win your wife back, but it's not guaranteed because she's her own person, right? We can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. And so if you're like, okay, I'm doing all this so my wife will come back. I'm doing all this so my wife will have sex with me more. Okay. It's out of your control. And so now what does that create for you? It causes a lot of stress. Okay. It causes a lot of anxiety because you're always guessing, okay, what's my wife going to do? Is she going to respond this way? Is she going to respond that way? Right. Okay. And causes, probably most importantly, manipulation. Right. So you're trying to do these things, but again, it's guided by manipulation. There's strings attached. You're trying to control her. It's not going to work, and she doesn't like it. Okay. So even if you build up some good strengths and skills, you learn to communicate better, you build your body better, your finances are in better shape, you learn to use the state fair model. Although if you learn to use that well, you're going to catch this stuff. But you're getting better at your thoughts, you're naming your emotions, you're doing all this. But if the foundation is change my wife, it's a sandy foundation. Okay. And it feels unsteady because it is, right? You can't feel steady in trying to control another person's behavior. Okay. And that feels shifty, right? It feels weak. So, Jesus teaches you got to build on the rock, right? Because if you build on the sandy foundation, the storms come and it washes away. So this is the other thing that happens, right? So you start building these strengths, you start doing the things we talk about in the program, and then your wife doesn't respond, right? Or she even responds negatively. Okay, the storm comes, and then you're like, well, forget it. I'm not going to do it. And then your wife knows for sure that this was all just a manipulation, right? It had nothing to do with you actually becoming a better man. It just had to do with you trying to get her to come back or have sex with you more. Got it? Okay. And guys, it's not attractive. Okay. Because you can't feel steady. You're feeling anxious. You are being manipulative, whether you see it or not. Okay. And none of that's attractive, right? It doesn't feel good. Okay. So here's another reason to build these strengths. And this is the one that I recommend, right? That is more attractive and feels better. So to be the strong, loving leader of your life and home that you want to be, and doing it for God, for yourself, for your kids, and just to be the husband that you want to be. Okay. So now what happened? The Probably the most important thing that happened is now the win is 100% in your control. Can I be a strong and loving leader? Can I be, someone who acts in the way I feel like God would want me to act? Okay. Then the nice thing for those of you who believe in God and are Christian, believe in Jesus, like those guys don't move, right? So you kind of, and your conscience tells you sort of what they want from you. Okay. So they're not going to be shifting around like your wife, right? One day she feels one way, the next day she feels next. And I'm not just picking on your wife. Everybody's like that. I'm like that. One day I'm this way, one day I'm that way. And so it's very unsteady to try to, you know, track that and try to control that other person because they're always shifting. But if you tie it to God, look, I want to please God. I want to do what I feel like He wants me to do. I want to be the husband He wants me to be. Okay, that doesn't move. And so now, yeah, I can be that way. I can be the husband that I want to be. And I can reflect, let's say you and your wife have a disagreement about, parenting thing. And, you want to do it a certain way and you are sure like this is consistent with how God wants you to do it. You feel very strong about that and your wife disagrees, right? Now you can kind of stand up to her, right? But in a calm way, in a kind way. Okay. You can say, hey, no, this is what I feel is right. I want to do it this way. And your wife might say, oh, we shouldn't do it that way or whatever. But you can still, follow through and you can discuss, right? And again, that's more, but if you're just trying to make your wife happy, you're just going to cave or whatever, right? So again, when you're tied to what God wants, you can be strong in your positions because they're based on something that's eternal, right? Okay. So again, it's in your control. You can still be a good person, even if your wife doesn't see it or doesn't believe it or doesn't like it, right? Or doesn't trust it. Okay. Because so like another thing guys want to do is win back trust, especially after an affair. Now, trust, it's up to your wife. Like she can trust, she can choose to trust you or not. What you have to decide to do is to be trustworthy, to be a man who keeps his promises. Okay. That's all you can control. You can't control whether she trusts you or not. Now, what will likely happen is as you keep your promises over time, your wife will trust you again. Okay, that's most likely scenario. Um, Now, there are situations where trust has been broken too much and she chooses not to, and that's up to her. But it's up to you to be trustworthy, and you are 100% in control of that. Okay, so now these strength building exercises, they're not manipulative anymore. It's true working on yourself. And so again, you win no matter what your wife chooses. In these severe cases, if she does choose to leave or divorce or continue the affair with somebody else, yeah, that's hard. But you've won because you've become who you want to be as a man. And guess what happens later? You attract somebody to you that also is at that same level of strength and skill. Because we attract people that are about our same level of strength and skill across these areas. Okay. So as you build strength, your wife might not choose you. That's hard, but you will be ready for your next relationship, and you'll still build a good relationship with her as your ex-wife. If you have kids, and great relationship with your kids. So again, you win no matter what. And the other thing too, guys, most of the time, right? If you make these changes, your wife already fell in love with you. She chose to be with you. So as you really step into the man that you can be, the best man that you can be, you treat her well because that's who you because you just want to, right? Not because you're trying to get something out of her. Okay, she will become more attracted to you and you'll be able to have a better marriage than you ever had. Okay. So again, this is the weird paradox is that when you're changing and building strength, not for her, but because it's who you want to be, okay, that's when you're really, truly attractive. Okay. The less you actually need her attention, appreciation, and affection because you're feeling steady and strong in who you're being as a man and you feel confident in that. Okay. So you don't need her to tell you, oh, you're so great, because you already feel like, hey, I'm living in integrity with who I want to be as a man. That feels great. And then guess what? She starts giving you attention, appreciation, and affection and she gives it freely. right? Because she's like, man, this is a different guy now. That's awesome, right? She doesn't feel manipulated into telling you that because you didn't try to, flex in front of her, right? All right. So here's another thing that can happen, right? So sometimes guys will sort of mistake the idea here and they'll say, okay, well, if I can't control my wife, if I can't change her, if no matter what I do, I can't guarantee she's going to come back, then I might as well just, say, forget it, right? Screw it. Or, if no matter what I do, my wife still might not choose to have sex with me, right? Then I'm not even going to try, right? I'm not going to do anything nice for her because, you know, whatever. She won't do what I want. I won't do what she wants. Okay. So, that is a common response. I had this response to my wife for a while. Um, so, yeah, you could say stuff like, look, she's in charge of her own emotions, so she can just deal with it, right? I'm not going to do anything that she wants. So it might feel a little bit stronger because you're kind of like, well, screw you, right? I don't need you. I'll do my own thing. But really, it's still based in weakness and it's not attractive. And here's why: is because what you're really doing here is you're trying to like pay her back for years of bending over backwards for her, right? You're trying to say, okay, fine. Like I did all this for you. You're not going to do anything for me. Fine. Like I'm not doing anything for you anymore. Okay. It feels kind of strong, right? But the question that you got to ask yourself is that who I want to be as a man and as a husband, right? If it is, that's fine. This won't be like I won't be the right person to try to help you, right? If you want to be a jerk and mean and manipulative, that's fine. This just is not the program for you, and I think that will lead to you not having a very happy life. But if you do say, look, no, I want to be a good man. I want to treat people with kindness. Right? I want to be a good husband according to my definition of that and my conscience and God's definition of that. Right. So again, it's understandable to start thinking, okay, well, if I can't make my wife happy, then I'm not going to try at all. Right. It's understandable. I get it. I did it myself. But you want to treat your wife kindly just because that's who you want to be as a man. Right. So I want you to really take a minute here and ask yourself, what kind of husband do I want to be? Not because my wife tells me she wants me to be a certain way, not because, you know, you, whatever, the movie told you to be this certain kind of husband or your parents told you to be this kind of husband, but who do you want to be, right? And if you're a Christian person, what kind of what kind of husband do you think Jesus wants you to be? Okay, what kind of husband do you want to be? Take a minute, just kind of maybe think out a few different words or phrases or examples. All right. So, whatever you came up with there, whatever came to mind, you know, hopefully that was, it could be inspired by God, right? Those kind of words or phrases. For me, and some of the type of husband I want to be is one who's kind, considerate, caring, loving. Okay, one who's strong and honest, who provides for and protects his family, strong and loving leader of my home. Okay. And also, someone who, finds that balance of respect for myself and respect for my wife, and we work on things and find wins for both of us. That's who I want to be as a husband. Okay? But again, why? Because you might say, oh yeah, those sound good, Mike. I want to do that, and that's fine, right? You want to use some of these words and phrases, awesome. But again, if we go back to that same thing, if it's like, well, Mike said that it sounded good, and I'm going to do that, and then so that my wife will come back, or so that my wife will have sex with me. We're back to that same issue. Okay, the why has to be because that's who you want to be. If you're a Christian person, because that's consistent with the type of husband God wants you to be. Okay, so I want you to notice the difference, right? When you say, look, I want to be a kind, strong, loving leader of my home because that's who God wants me to be, and that's who I want to be. How does that feel to you? Okay. So really try saying it. Try saying it. I want to be a strong, kind, caring, loving leader of my home, or just I want to be a strong and loving leader of my home because that's who I want to be and that's who God wants me to be. Like, how does that feel to say that? For me, it feels strong. It feels solid, right? It feels confident. And guess what, guys? When you feel that way, that is what's attractive to your wife. Okay. So again, the first way when we're trying to manipulate our wife, it feels not solid. It feels sandy, right? Because we don't know what our wife wants all the time, right? And it changes. And we're actually being mosquitoes. We're being manipulative. We're trying to, get her to do something for us. It's selfish. It's not selfless. Okay, so all that puts you on that sandy foundation. It doesn't feel good and it's not attractive. Compared to, this is who I want to be because that's what I believe in. That's what I believe God wants me to be. Feels so strong, so solid. Doesn't move because it's based on something eternal. It's building on the rock, right? Instead of the sand. So then that is attractive to her. Okay. It feels good and it's attractive. You win no matter what, right? Because now you're being who you want to be. That's the win. Okay. And if your wife is attracted to that, great. That's usually what happens. If you become the man you want to be and your wife is not attracted to that, well, maybe that's not the best relationship. Okay. So that can happen too, right? More commonly, you get to that good spot and she is attracted to you. But if she is not attracted to a guy who is living according to his values, okay, and is in integrity with his values, then yeah, there may not be a match there. So in summary, guys, women that are attracted to strength, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and sexual strength. But the reason why you build these strengths really matters if you're going to be attractive. Okay. If you're building these strengths just to get her back or to end their divorce or whatever, or to have more sex, it's still mosquito mode. It's still manipulative. It's unsteady. It feels weak and it's unattractive. It's building on sand. Okay. So you can build those strengths, but they're built on sand. They're going to fall apart and not be attractive and not really feel that good either. But if it's to be who you want to be for yourself, for God, for your kids, or just to be the husband that you want to be, and that feels consistent with who God wants you to be, it feels strong. It's solid. It's attractive. It's building on that rock. Okay. All right, guys. So, coming up in the next little bit, we're going to be opening up the strongman system again. If you are wanting to build these strengths, right, you know, this is a great spot for you to do it. But when you come in, I want you to understand, right? You want to build these strengths for you. Like even a lot of guys, when we talk about the money to pay for it, right? They're like, oh, I got to check my wife because they don't want to upset her, right? And it's still kind of the same issue, right? Where if you want to build these strengths for you, then you just want to be responsible for the investment in that, right? Like that's how you would do it if it was just for you. Sure, you want to be considerate of your wife and you want to, work together on finances and things like that. But if this is something really important to you, right, you do it because you want to build these strengths for you. Okay. Where if you want to do it, but you don't want to put the money in because it might upset your wife, okay, that's a good clue that you're still, you know, trapped in this idea of making her happy all the time, right? And of doing things that, being kind of worried about upsetting her, you know, instead of saying, no, like I've decided for myself, this is a program I want to do. I feel like it'll help me be a better man, a better husband, and I'm committed to that, right? And I'll make the financial side of it work, right? Because that's who I am as a man. Maybe she'd be a little upset about that, but really she would respect it, right? And be attracted to it. And that's what we're talking about here. Versus if you're like, oh, I want to do this, but is it okay, honey? Can I do it? Is it all right with you? And she might say like, no, I don't want you to do it. And then you don't. And then you think, oh, like that'll help me have a better marriage. But it doesn't, because the same old problem of you trying to manipulate her and control her and just try to make her happy all the time. So, all right, guys. So hopefully that all makes sense. Building strength is necessary if you want to attract your wife to you, but the reason you do it is so important. If it's just to change her, it will not work because it's manipulative and she knows it. Okay. If you're changing because that's who you want to be as a man, you want to learn these skills, you want to build these strengths, you want to be that kind of guy, Okay. That works because it feels good anyway, and that's attractive to her. All right, guys, stay strong. We'll see you next episode.